Hey guys, tonight we're time traveling to a place where the sidewalks are stone, the streets smell faintly of garum fish sauce, and everyone's teeth are suspiciously white. You're in ancient Rome. Picture this, it's early morning. You shuffle out of your cramped apartment in an insula, rubbing the sleep from your eyes. Below, vendors are setting up their stalls, steam rising from bread ovens. Somewhere in the distance, someone's yelling about olives. The marble glints in the sunrise, and your neighbor, Lucius, toga always just a little too crisp, flashes you a grin. His teeth sparkle, a little too much. You'll soon learn that behind that pearly smile is a secret. A secret that, if you're not careful, could quietly poison you for the rest of your short, tunic-wearing life. But hey, at least you'll die fashionable. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're feeling cozy, post your location and local time in the comments so we can all doze off across the globe together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're in a bustling Roman neighborhood. Children chase each other between clay pots and the occasional stray chicken. The local public fountain trickles steadily, its water supplied by aqueducts that stretch over hills and valleys like lazy stone caterpillars. The air smells of baked bread, smoke, and mystery, because in this world hygiene is part ritual, part fashion statement, and part, well, hopeful thinking. You reach for a mirror, bronze, slightly warped, and examine your reflection. Your teeth? Not ideal. Some are chipped. A couple might be trying to defect. So naturally, you reach for what Romans considered the morning essentials. A scraping stick, a cloth, maybe a bit of pumice powder. And if you're feeling fancy or foolish, you dab on a paste rumored to whiten even the most stubborn of smiles. It tingles, sweetly. You smack your lips and think, that's not bad. That's subtle sweetness. That's lead. Historians still argue whether Romans truly understood the risks of this metal, but one thing's for certain. They used it with the enthusiasm of someone discovering sugar and deciding to put it on everything, including, unfortunately, their teeth. You stroll past your neighbor again. He offers you a raisin cake. Delicious. You bite, and it crunches a little. Not from the raisins, but the ceramic glaze. Yep, that's lead too. Welcome to Rome, where even dessert comes with a dose of mild poisoning. We might scoff now, but the thing is, Romans prided themselves on cleanliness. Bathing was a social sport. Grooming was meticulous. But dental hygiene, that's where the ambition met a bit of scientific cluelessness. It wasn't that they didn't try, they did. They had mouthwashes made of vinegar and herbs, powders made from charcoal and ground bones, and even toothbrush-like tools crafted from twigs. Some were even soaked in urine. Yep, because ancient ammonia is the ancient world's version of minty fresh. But back to that toothpaste. The kind the wealthy preferred. The one that actually gave your teeth a dazzling white sheen. It often included lead carbonate, a bright white substance that coated the teeth in an enviable layer of shine. The problem, of course, is that this same substance was slowly infiltrating your bloodstream. Now don't get too worried, you've only used it once, right? But the thing is, so did your parents, and their parents, and Lucius next door. He uses it twice a day, and also complains about constant fatigue and forgetfulness. Strange coincidence. And yet nobody panics, nobody raises an eyebrow. Lead is everywhere, quiet, shiny, useful. In fact, it's a status symbol. And you, dear traveler, are just beginning to realize that status in Rome often comes with a surprisingly high toxic load. Oh, and if your gums are bleeding a bit, totally normal according to your local healer, just apply more paste, maybe chew on a myrrh stick. And if that doesn't work, maybe a bloodletting or two will do the trick. The streets are growing busier now. You pass by a dentist's shop, if you can call it that. There's no sign, just a guy with some ominously rusted tools and a stool with suspicious stains. He waves you in. You politely decline. See, most Romans didn't have dentists like we think of them today. They had general healers who dabbled in teeth. Extraction was common. So was cauterizing. No numbing, of course, just bite on a stick or pray to Apollo and hope he's in a good mood. And yet, despite all this, you can't help but admire how good everyone looks. There's a strange kind of charm in the chaos. a pride in appearance, in ritual, in routine, even if that routine includes slowly decorating your insides with heavy metals. By now, the sun is higher. You're walking past the forum. Senators debate laws while sipping wine, a woman sells perfumes near a shrine, and a kid nearby chases a pigeon with a stick. Life hums on, oblivious, glorious, and very slightly poisoned. You find yourself wondering, did anyone suspect this was a problem? Some did. There are scattered writings, half-ignored warnings. A few physicians, like Dioscorides, seemed vaguely uneasy about it. But without microscopes, lab tests, or a good TED Talk, concerns just faded away like steam from a bath. Because after all, Lucius is still smiling. The lead hasn't gotten him yet. Or maybe it has. Hard to say. He's forgotten his own birthday again. Still, you reach for another bite of raisin cake. It's sweet, comforting. You chew slowly, already feeling the day's warmth pressing down. And in this moment, in this strangely beautiful, unknowingly dangerous world, you're just another Roman trying to live your best life, one questionable grooming habit at a time. The afternoon sun bakes the rooftops of Rome as you duck beneath a shaded colonnade, the cool stone providing a momentary escape from the glare. Somewhere nearby, a vendor bellows about fresh figs, while a chorus of sandals shuffle across cobbled roads. You're starting to feel the familiar tug of fatigue, not just from the heat, but from whatever it was you brushed your teeth with this morning. Still, you carry on, because it's time to visit the apothecary. Inside the cramped little shop, shelves are lined with clay jars labeled in Latin. The smell is earthy and sharp. Oregano, crushed pine resin, vinegar, maybe a hint of animal something. The apothecary, a man whose toga seems perpetually dusty, greets you with a nod and immediately launches into a list of remedies for general decay of the gums. He recommends a mixture of honey, salt, and, there it is again, cerussa. That's lead carbonate. You blink. He assures you it's very fashionable among patrician households. You hesitate, but not too much. After all, Pliny the Elder mentioned this stuff in his natural history, and everyone knows Pliny had opinions about literally everything. He called cerussa white lead and praised it for its beauty-enhancing qualities. It's used on faces, too, mixed with vinegar to create a creamy cosmetic. That glowy Roman Instagram filter skin? Mostly lead. Historians still argue whether Roman elites truly believed this was safe or simply didn't care. After all, appearances mattered more than mortality. And who wants to walk around with yellowed teeth and patchy cheeks when you could look like a living statue? So you buy a small jar, tucking it into your satchel next to a sprig of rosemary and a rather sketchy-looking toothpick made from a porcupine quill. Hygiene is an adventure. You step back into the sun and head toward the baths of Caracalla. Not to bathe, though you could use it, but to listen. Gossip flows through bathhouses faster than the hot water. In the tepidarium, two matrons are discussing a senator's wife who collapsed after a beauty treatment. Too much lead face paste, one mutters. The other shrugs. Well, at least she looked radiant. You sit on a warm bench, letting your eyes close just for a moment. The rumble of voices around you, the soft slosh of water, the smell of sandalwood soap. It's like drifting in a slow river of sounds. Except, somewhere beneath the serenity, you can't shake the thought. Everything you touch might be slowly poisoning you. The Romans used lead not just in beauty and dental products, but in plumbing too. Their beloved aqueducts, those marvels of engineering, often fed water into lead pipes. Fistulae, they called them. And while some argue that the constant water flow prevented significant build-up, others say the cumulative exposure was enough to gradually affect entire populations. Some scholars even suspect lead poisoning played a role in Rome's slow decline, not dramatically, not as some singular villain, but as a quiet contributor to reduced fertility, chronic illness, and mental fog among the elite. A civilization undone not by swords or sieges, but by its own fashion choices and a poorly vetted ingredient list. You drift back into the city streets, where a group of children are playing a game that involves beanbags and enthusiastic yelling. One girl flashes a smile, white and perfect, a little too perfect. You wonder, what's in her mother's cosmetic drawer? It's strange, isn't it? how something so dangerous could be wrapped in rituals of comfort. The lead paste isn't administered with a scowl or a threat. It's part of your mourning, like brushing your hair or smoothing your toga. The poison comes with a pleasant taste and a promise. You'll look like a goddess. It's oddly soothing, predictable. You wake up, you whiten your teeth, you live your life. Sometimes you feel dizzy, sometimes your memory slips, but there's always a reason. Maybe it's the weather, maybe it's stress, or maybe it's the cumulative effect of 1,000 small decisions made in the name of beauty. You stop by a stall selling beauty scrolls, basically ancient lifestyle magazines. One includes a recipe attributed to Cleopatra herself, promising brighter eyes and a more seductive smile. It calls for powdered pearls, a dab of honey, and yes, Sarusa again. You roll your eyes. At this point, it's like trying to avoid gluten at a medieval banquet. It's everywhere. The sun begins to lower, shadows lengthen. You wander through the forum, where philosophers debate beneath porticos. One is lecturing about bodily humours and the dangers of too much phlegm. He completely ignores the more immediate danger dripping from the eyeliner of the woman seated beside him. You feel a bit tired, a little off. Maybe it's the heat, or the lead, or the existential dread of knowing that your society's commitment to white smiles is quietly draining your vitality. But hey, your teeth look amazing. Back in your apartment, you examine your reflection again. You grin, still gleaming. You don't feel great, but you look fantastic. And in this city, looking the part often means more than feeling it. So you dab on a little more paste, just a bit, for the evening glow. Then, you sit by the window, listening to the clatter of hooves on stone, the soft hush of wind through laundry lines, the hum of life going on, unaware, or maybe just unconcerned. And somewhere, Pliny's ghost is probably still giving advice. Morning breaks over Rome in soft golden bands that spill through shuttered windows. You stir beneath your linen blanket, reluctant to face the day, not because of the chores or the crowds, or even the looming possibility of being roped into a debate about stoicism. No, it's that jar again, your little pot of lead-based tooth polish, perched innocently by the wash basin. You swing your feet over the edge of the bed and move through your routine, the way you always do. A splash of cold water on the face, a handful of barley gruel, and then, reluctantly, a smear of Sarusa along the teeth, applied with a tiny brush made from boar bristles. You swirl, you spit. You try not to think about the fine, chalky film it leaves behind. Today, you're accompanying a friend to a dentist, or rather, what passes for a dentist in ancient Rome, a barber surgeon with more enthusiasm than formal training. You walk through the Subura, Rome's bustling lower district, dodging the occasional goat and inhaling a blend of cooking oil, incense, and something suspiciously sulphurous. Your friend, a chatty mosaic artist named Cassia, has been complaining about a sore molar. She's convinced it's toothworms, a common diagnosis back then. You nod sympathetically. "Have you tried honey and mouse brains?" you ask, quoting a popular cure. She doesn't laugh. The barber's shop is wedged between a tavern and a tannery. Inside it's cramped, smoky, and smells faintly of burnt rosemary and blood. A man in a stained tunic ushers you in and asks Cassia to lie back on a tilted wooden board. He inspects her tooth and then announces he will extract it with a special tool, which looks suspiciously like iron tongs you've seen used to remove sandals. You glance around and spot a display shelf of dental powders. Most of them are homemade, featuring ingredients like ground oyster shells, charcoal, myrrh resin, and, yes, Sarusa, listed plainly on a sloppily inked label. It's presented as a miracle whitener, especially favoured by actresses and courtesans. Used by the best smiles on the stage, the barber boasts, giving you a wink. Historians still argue whether these barbers fully understood the danger of lead-based products or simply chalked up their clients' frequent fainting spells to the stress of Roman life. One medical papyrus from Alexandria mentions symptoms like fatigue, paleness, and abdominal pain, but attributes them to imbalanced bile. Lead, not even a footnote. Cassia groans as her tooth is yanked with a sickening crunch. The barber drops it into a little bronze bowl like a trophy. He offers her a rinse of vinegar and salt and a pat on the back. "Smile bright," he says, as if she's leaving a spa. You drag her out of the chair and guide her back into the street, where she clutches her jaw with one hand and a complimentary tin of tooth powder with the other. You can already see the fine white dust trailing from its seams. As you walk, she mutters that her gums feel numb but sparkly. You nod. That tracks. At the market square, a perfumer is giving a demonstration. He's mixing crushed flower petals with a viscous white base to create a new lip salve. The base? Carusa, of course. When asked why, he waves dramatically and says, because it catches the light. You're beginning to notice a pattern. Lead is in face creams, eyeliners, blush powders, and now lip balm. You lean closer to his samples and catch a whiff that's more metallic than floral. Nearby, a philosopher is holding court on the nature of pleasure. You can't help but imagine him chewing on a fig, unaware his perfectly white teeth might be slowly sabotaging his brain's pleasure receptors. He quotes Epicurus, then rubs his temples. Back at Cassia's workshop, you help her settle in. She's resting, eyes glazed, smiling in a dazed way. You glance around at her colourful mosaic tiles, tiny, bright and gleaming with embedded bits of pigment. Lead white, she says, gesturing to a jar she uses for highlights. You try not to look too horrified. Roman artists prized cerussa not just in cosmetics, but in paintings and sculpture details. It gave that soft, luminous effect on marble statues, on murals, and, unfortunately, on real human faces. And here's the thing. You still use it too, because the alternatives are either ineffective or expensive. Ash makes your breath smell like a barbecue. Crushed mint is hard to come by. Even imported Chinese powders made from pulverized jade or pearl cost a small fortune. You try to justify it. Just a little, just for the teeth. Not the cheeks. Not anymore. Except, you do have a dinner party tonight, and you're seated near that merchant from Alexandria with the perfect curls. Maybe just a dab of glow on your cheekbones. You sigh. In the evening, you're dressed in your best toga, your hair curled with olive oil and a bronze rod, your smile gleaming like a polished statue. You sip watered wine and chew olives, careful not to let anything dark stain your teeth. Across the table, someone compliments your youthful glow. You say thank you. You try not to think about the fact that your glow is possibly radioactive in a metaphorical sort of way. You overhear two guests talking about a friend who's become forgetful and shaky. Must be the stress, one says. Or the bad air, another offers. No one even considers the makeup, the pipes, the powders. You realize no one ever does. The morning sun rises again, casting a gentle glow through the dusty panes of your domus windows. You stretch under the covers, your jaw faintly aching, not from anything serious, just the residue of clenching your teeth in your sleep. Probably dreaming about vinegar rinses and mouse brain paste again. You shuffle to the mirror basin. There it is, that tin of cerussa tooth powder, waiting like a loyal, if slightly homicidal, friend. You swipe just the tiniest amount onto your brush. After all, appearances matter, especially today. You're visiting your cousin Lucius, who claims to have found an innovative substitute for the classic Roman smile routine. Lucius, as it turns out, lives in a villa in the quieter Aventine district. Peaceful, leafy, and unnervingly silent, except for distant lyre practice. You arrive to find him standing in his garden, smiling like a man who's discovered the secret to immortality. Eggshells, he says, holding up a ceramic jar. You blink. Powdered eggshells, he repeats. Mixed with goat milk and sage oil. No lead at all. Completely natural. Smells terrible, of course, but doesn't cause the hallucinations. You nod politely while trying to recall whether Lucius has always twitched like that. As he prepares you a sample, you glance around his home. Like many upper-class Romans, his kitchen is full of lead. Literally. The pots, pans, and pipes gleam with it. Even the wine jugs are sealed with lead stoppers. The water from his private aqueduct system runs through lead-lined channels. You mention this gently. He shrugs. We boil it. That purifies it. A pause. Probably. Historians still argue whether the Romans ever truly made the connection between their plumbing and their health. Some ancient authors, Vitruvius notably, warned about using lead pipes, claiming they produced noxious vapors. But others seemed unfazed. After all, if you're feeling unwell, The solution was more often a trip to the bathhouse, not a reworking of your entire infrastructure. Lucius's egg concoction tastes, predictably, like a henhouse. You rinse and thank him, assuring him it's very promising, while casually slipping the jar into your travel pouch, for science. Later, in the forum, you hear gossip about a senator who collapsed mid-speech. Too much honeyed wine, someone mutters, or maybe those dates from Hispania. You raise an eyebrow, remembering how often Roman wine was boiled down with sapa, a sweetener made by reducing grape must in, yes, you guessed it, lead pots. Sapa wasn't just a flavor booster, it was a status symbol. Rich households poured it over everything from fruits to fish. Even medical texts promoted it as a laxative. You begin to suspect the senator's digestive system may have been crying for help long before he keeled over during a debate on grain taxes. You pass a spice seller hawking imported cloves and cardamom. She offers you a taste of something she calls mouth blossom powder. It smells like cinnamon and ash. You ask what's in it. Ash of goat hooves, flower petals, and a pinch of crushed marble, she says proudly. Very fashionable in Ephesus. You ask if it contains lead. She blinks. Only a little. You pass. Down a side street, a group of young women laugh loudly, showing off perfectly polished teeth. One even winks at you. They're wearing deep red lip stain and bright white makeup dusted along their necks and arms. They look radiant. They look invincible. You wonder how many of them will develop headaches, tremors, or worse by the time they're your age. You remember Cassia's face yesterday, just after the dentist. The way her lips were pale, her breath metallic, her smile still somehow perfect. You duck into a shaded colonnade, suddenly craving some air untainted by lead fumes or powdered marble. A street musician plays a sleepy tune on a panpipe. You close your eyes and imagine a world where the perfect smile doesn't come with memory loss. And then you sneeze. Powder. There's always powder in the air. From makeup, from builders sanding stone, from barbers sharpening tools. You suddenly understand why some philosophers fled the city to live in caves. You retreat to the baths of Caracalla. Inside, steam wraps around you like a warm fog. You sit on a bench in the tepidarium, letting the humidity loosen the tension in your jaw. An older man next to you chuckles, holding a scroll. Reading about how the Greeks used salt and vinegar to clean their teeth, he says. Primitive stuff. You glance over. His gums are greyish, his nails brittle, but his teeth, white as marble. Primitive, you echo. Later, wrapped in a towel and sipping lukewarm water from a bronze cup, you hear a bather ranting about his wife's obsession with beauty. She powders everything, he exclaims. Even our dog has shimmer. The others laugh. One adds, at least your wife still has her memory. Mine tried to kiss a statue last week. The joke lands a little too hard. That night you lie in bed staring at the ceiling, your teeth still tingling faintly from Lucius's eggshell brew. You think about how long this has been going on, how even Cleopatra supposedly used lead-based coal and blush, how Parthians, Greeks and Egyptians all danced with similar poisons. The pursuit of beauty, eternal youth, social approval, it's older than Rome itself, and it always leaves a trail of glittery dust behind. You roll over, eyes heavy, breath slow. Your toothbrush lies by the basin. So does the powder tin. And tomorrow, you'll probably use it again. But maybe just a little less. The next morning begins as most Roman mornings do, with the clatter of carts outside and the echo of sandals across mosaic floors. You sit upright on your straw mattress, tongue probing your teeth, half expecting them to be whiter after yesterday's powdered eggshell experiment. They're about the same, perhaps a bit chalkier. You dress slowly, wrapping yourself in your usual tunic, still marked faintly with a stain from last week's fig incident. As you run a comb through your hair, another Roman ritual often involving olive oil, beeswax, and occasionally crushed beetles, you reflect on the strange dichotomy of Roman hygiene. The empire is obsessed with bathing, grooming, and appearances, but the substances used in the name of cleanliness might just be doing more harm than good. Today you're scheduled to visit a local perfumer who's recently added tooth creams to her offerings. A curious addition for someone who usually deals in rosewater and civet musk. You arrive at her shop just as she's stirring a pot of something thick, white, and vaguely floral. The smell is pleasant, lavender and myrrh with a dash of, well, something pungent beneath it all. Alunite and lead carbonate, she says proudly. It gives the cream its staying power. You nod. Of course it does. She insists you try it, and you oblige. The texture is smoother than the powder, the taste less offensive, but the lead tang still coats your mouth like a fine film. You thank her and slip away before she can offer you a matching lip dye. As you walk through the Subura district, home to both artisans and the occasional pickpocket, you notice children playing beside an open sewer channel. Their teeth gleam, not because of any beauty regimen, but likely due to malnutrition and grinding bits of gravel for fun. One child grins at you, revealing a mouthful of mismatched teeth, some blackened, some missing entirely. You smile back, then silently wish him better toothpaste. It's around this time that a troubling thought begins to form. Maybe the poor have it better, dentally speaking. After all, they can't afford lead powder. Their teeth may rot, fall out, or get knocked loose in a street brawl. But at least their brains remain largely unpickled. Historians still debate whether the damage lead caused in ancient Rome was ever fully understood. There's evidence that some doctors noticed a connection between tremors and heavy metal exposure, but the knowledge was fragmented, anecdotal. The empire didn't keep toxicology reports, just vague treatises and the occasional grave inscription that read more like poetry than science. You duck into a thermopolium for lunch. The menu is modest: lentil stew, barley bread, wine cut with water, and, yes, another side of supper, that infernal lead-laced syrup. You ask for yours plain. The vendor raises an eyebrow. Health kick? He asks. Trying something new, you reply, which is Roman for, I'm slowly panicking about my brain function. The conversation at the communal table drifts to beauty trends. A woman nearby claims her neighbor uses snake bile to whiten her teeth. A man swears by crushed oyster shells mixed with donkey milk. You mention the perfumer's cream. Ah, someone groans. That'll rot your face off in 5 years. My cousin lost a cheek. You politely chew your barley bread, now quite convinced that natural doesn't always mean better. After lunch, you visit a small library maintained by a retired scribe named Gaius. He's compiling a treatise called De Dente Pulchritudine, on the beauty of teeth. It's part satire, part science, part philosophical musing. You flip through a few pages. One passage reads, "True beauty lies not in the luster of bone, but in the breath of words that emerge from behind them." You blink. That's surprisingly poetic for a man who's been chewing resin bark for 20 years. Gaius claims he's never touched lead products. Too flashy, he says. Besides, I like to remember where I left my sandals. He shows you his collection of alternative dental implements. Sticks from the arak tree, porcupine quills, wool soaked in wine. He even has a tiny bronze scraper shaped like a dolphin. For tartar, he says with a wink. You ask if he's ever tried carusa. Once, he replies. Felt like I'd swallowed a dagger. Haven't smiled the same since. As you leave, you consider how much of Roman dental culture is performative. It's not really about health. It's about status, presentation, illusion. A gleaming smile means wealth, refinement, influence. Whether it also means memory loss, infertility, or mild psychosis is beside the point. That night, you join a small dinner party hosted by a wine merchant and his terrifyingly well-dressed wife. The table is set with silver goblets and gleaming platters of roasted dormice. The conversation meanders from gossip to poetry to the latest plague rumors. At one point, a guest compliments the hostess's dazzling smile. She beams, revealing teeth that glint like marble columns. "Cerusa paste," she says, "twice a day." You sip your wine, trying not to imagine what her hippocampus looks like. As the meal winds down, a visiting Greek physician named Diocles begins pontificating about humors, brain vapors, and the effects of lifestyle on mental clarity. Lead, he says, is like a slow curse. It whispers through your organs. Everyone chuckles politely. The hostess pours more wine. You excuse yourself and step out into the garden. The moon hangs low over the city, casting silver light on the tiled rooftops. Somewhere nearby, a dog barks once, then settles. The scent of lavender drifts from the perfumer's stall a few streets over. You wonder if the Romans are just too good at ignoring warning signs, at decorating the walls of their lives, while the foundations crack silently beneath. Then again, perhaps we all do that, in some way. You run a finger over your teeth. Smooth, white, slightly tingling. You exhale slowly and head home, the night cool and quiet around you. You wake to a mild headache, a dull throb right behind your eyes that wasn't there yesterday. Maybe it's the wine, maybe it's the slow, creeping side effect of your new dental routine, or maybe it's just Rome. Outside, the city is waking with its usual din, vendors shouting about fresh olives, caged parrots mimicking curses, and a baker who always hums the same off-key tune. You rinse your mouth with watered wine, then rub your teeth with a bit of wool dipped in honey and vinegar, Gaius the scribe's recommended alternative. It's stickier than expected. As you chew a breakfast of dates and almonds, you think about how the obsession with white teeth has become something of a Roman fixation, right up there with conquering territories, debating poetry, and blaming Gauls for everything. It isn't just the elite who participate now. Even in the poorer districts, people try to emulate the patrician look. Teeth are a status symbol, like sandals without holes or a tunic that doesn't smell like fish brine. Later that morning, you find yourself drawn toward the home of a Roman matrona, one of the city's unofficial beauty experts, whose name is whispered in bathhouses with a mix of envy and reverence. Flavia Pulchra. Her house is fragrant with imported resins and the ever-present hum of gossip. You're not sure how you ended up with an invitation, but you're not about to question it. Inside, her servants bustle quietly, offering spiced nuts and pomegranate juice. Flavia is reclining on a couch draped in Tyrian purple, her hair stacked like an architectural project. Her smile gleams unnaturally, even in the shaded light. "You've come for the lesson," she says, before you can even greet her. You nod. That seems safest. Flavia's method, it turns out, is an involved process. She combines crushed pearls, vinegar, and, you guessed it, cerussa. She claims it's a family secret handed down from her grandmother, who reportedly still has all her teeth at age 75. Historians might raise an eyebrow at that anecdote, but you're too polite and too intimidated to do so. She applies the mixture with a small silver spatula, then instructs you to sit very still while it dries. Movement causes streaks, she explains. The paste hardens quickly. It feels like you've painted your teeth with plaster. Breathing through your nose becomes mandatory. While you wait, she regales you with tales of Roman society. Who's cheating on whom? Which senator was caught wearing sandals after the Ides? And how Cleopatra supposedly used crushed rubies on her gums. "For color," she says. "Not everyone wants white, you know." Eventually, she hands you a small bronze mirror. Your teeth look luminous, blinding really. But the flavor, like licking a rusty Colosseum. She smiles approvingly. "You look like someone with money. People will treat you better." You thank her, and she gifts you a tiny jar of the paste for touch-ups. You're too stunned by your glowing reflection to argue. As you leave Flavia's home, you catch your reflection in a passing water vendor's bronze pot. The effect is striking, if a little ghostly. You smile at a passing child, who promptly drops his basket of turnips and runs. Historians still argue whether Romans truly believed lead-based beauty treatments were harmless, or whether they simply didn't care. Some evidence suggests doctors warned against its overuse. Others say those warnings were buried beneath the louder voices of the beauty industry's early influencers, like Flavia. Midday brings heat, and the lead paste starts to feel heavier. You dab your mouth with a cloth, pretending to be fashionable while secretly checking for slippage. It's holding, barely. You decide to visit the baths to clear your head. The public baths are Rome's great equalizer. Senators and slaves, merchants and musicians, all steaming together in a fog of sweat, eucalyptus oil and quiet judgment. You undress, rinse in cold water, then step into the caldarium. The heat wraps around you like a wet wool blanket. A man next to you offers a tooth powder he claims came from Parthia. "It sparkles like snow," he says. You decline politely. You've learned your lesson, for now. Later, lounging in the tepidarium, you overhear a group of older men discussing memory loss. One swears that his forgetfulness only began after he started using a new cosmetic. Another blames it on drinking wine from painted goblets. A third jokes that it's just the cost of being Roman. You dry off, dress, and head home. On your walk, you pass a mural being repainted with bright white highlights. The painter dips his brush into a jar labeled Cerussa Alba. You slow your pace, then keep walking. That night, as you lay on your straw mattress, you run your tongue across your teeth. Still smooth, still strange. Your thoughts drift to Gaius, to Flavia, to that child with the missing turnips. You wonder how something so seemingly small, how you clean your teeth, can be so tightly bound to class, vanity, and danger. You also wonder if your headache is still just the wine. The next morning, the headache lingers like a houseguest who didn't get the hint. You stir slowly, hoping a sip of goat's milk and a bite of dry bread will soften the pounding in your skull. But your jaw feels heavy. Your mouth tastes vaguely metallic. You know it's the paste, still clinging to your teeth like a stubborn fresco. You rinse with water, then more wine, and finally a swish of vinegar. The tang snaps you awake, and the bitterness reminds you of Gaius's warning. Cerussa isn't just on your teeth, it's in them now. You had laughed at the time, now not so much. As you rub your temples, you recall whispers from the forum yesterday. A rumor that a young noblewoman, daughter of some senator or another, collapsed at a banquet. The cause? Too much beauty, someone had joked, but beneath the laughter was unease. You head out anyway. Rome doesn't stop for migraines or mild neurotoxicity. Your first stop is the apothecary's stall near the temple of Asclepius. The stall is cluttered with remedies, crushed lizard tails, poppy syrup, dried frog skins, for warding off envy, and more respectable herbs like chamomile and myrrh. The apothecary, an older man with hands stained green from constant contact with leaves, greets you with a grunt and a sniff. Your pupils are wide, he notes, squinting. Been using Flavia's mix, haven't you? You're surprised, but nod. He hands you a small pouch of ground mint and instructs you to chew it with goat fat. It won't fix the lead, he mutters, but it might make your breath less imperial. He leans closer. You know, we used to use charcoal for whitening. Works just as well. Doesn't kill you either. You thank him, even if the sarcasm is thicker than the salve he's stirring. Historians still debate how much the average Roman knew about the long-term effects of these cosmetics. Medical writings from Galen and others occasionally mention lead sickness, but it's unclear if people connected the dots between beauty and their own bizarre symptoms. For most, vanity outweighed vague risks. You chew the minty goat fat. It's unconventional, but your breath improves, or at least becomes pungent in a different way. Later, you wander into a market tucked behind the Basilica Julia. It's quieter than usual. An old woman sells mirrors polished from obsidian, and you catch your reflection. Your teeth still gleam, unnaturally pale against your olive skin. A seller of oils approaches, offering a small vial with a knowing wink. For balance, he says, to counter the effects of the other stuff. You ask what's inside. He shrugs. Things that grow near the Tiber. You don't buy it. Instead, you make your way toward the Subura, where everyday Romans hustle through narrow alleys. Laundry drips from windows overhead, and the air smells of bread and sweat and something slightly less poetic. This is where the real city lives. Not all gleaming marble and golden laurels, just humans doing their best. You duck into a tavern where a trio of barbers are mid-debate. They're discussing the best ways to bleach hair without going bald. You sit nearby, sipping watered wine, and eavesdrop as they pivot from hair to teeth. One of my clients insists on oyster shell powder, says the youngest. Too soft, the eldest replies. Bone ash is better, finer grit. Lead paste lasts longer, the third adds quietly. But you have to be careful. They all nod. No elaboration needed. The conversation drifts to dreams. One barber says he's been having strange ones lately, floating through tunnels, forgetting names, laughing for no reason. They all laugh, uneasily. You leave the tavern with the sound of their jokes trailing behind. Your thoughts feel a bit floaty too. You decide to visit the Tiber, hoping the cool breeze might clear your head. As you reach the river's edge, you spot a fisherman scrubbing his teeth with a damp reed. He grins when he notices you staring. Better than anything in the forum, he says, waving the reed like a magic wand. You sit beside him for a while, saying nothing. The river moves sluggishly past, carrying tiny branches, discarded garlands, and a mysterious jug bobbing along. You watch it disappear under the bridge, your mind drifting with it. The sun begins to set, casting golden light over the city's stone bones. Everything seems softer now, more distant. The lead paste has mostly worn off, leaving a faint shimmer behind. You think back to that first moment in Gaius's kitchen, the way he smiled, proud and confident. How easily you were drawn in by that glow. It's easy to forget that beauty often hides cost, especially in a city like Rome, where illusions are carved into marble and brushed onto teeth. As night settles, you start the slow walk home. Your headache lingers. But so does something else, a strange mix of regret and curiosity. You wonder if Flavia's grandmother really did live to 75. You wonder if anyone remembers the names of the women who didn't. You pass a statue of Minerva, goddess of wisdom, and you pause. Her eyes are blank, her mouth closed, her expression unreadable. Maybe that's the trick to surviving Rome, not to glow, not to fade, but to endure in stone silence. You touch your teeth gently with your tongue, smooth, but no longer glowing. You smile anyway. The morning light slips through your window, casting soft shadows on your still heavy eyelids. You rise carefully, mindful of the lingering fog in your mind. The city hums quietly outside, already alive with the chatter of vendors and the distant clatter of horse hooves on cobblestones. Your teeth feel oddly numb, as if the lead paste you applied yesterday has settled in, weaving itself deeper into your enamel. You recall the curious blend of admiration and unease from your visit to the apothecary and barber's. People caught between tradition and the slow creep of new knowledge. It's a strange dance, isn't it? How something meant to beautify can slowly erode the very thing it enhances. You remember the apothecary's words about charcoal being a safer alternative, yet it never caught on. Perhaps because lead promised a brilliance no other substance could rival, and brilliance, after all, is seductive. Today you decide to explore how this obsession with gleaming teeth fits into the broader tapestry of Roman daily life. You imagine a typical day for a Roman citizen, waking to the aroma of burning oil lamps and fresh bread, donning a toga carefully folded for public display, then heading out to the forum or the baths. Appearance was paramount, not just for the elite, but for merchants, soldiers, even slaves, striving for small moments of dignity. You wander towards the baths, a place that smells faintly of lavender and sweat, where the clatter of sandals on wet marble mixes with low conversation. Here, beauty rituals and socializing blend seamlessly. Women and men alike are meticulous about their appearance, though in different ways. You recall reading that Roman women sometimes mixed crushed bones or shells into their tooth powders, hoping for a gentle abrasive. The men? They often preferred something stronger, lead paste among them, because a brilliant smile was a sign of status, a silent currency in the bustling social markets. You find a quiet corner to observe. A matron dips a cloth into a bowl of whitening mixture and begins her careful application. The sight is oddly soothing, rhythmic even. There's a certain tenderness in these everyday actions, an intimate dance between vanity and routine, between ancient beauty secrets and the desire to present one's best self. Your thoughts drift to lesser-known corners of the empire. How did peoples from Gaul or Egypt approach dental care? You remember that some tribes used chewing sticks or mint leaves, simple but effective. In Egypt, they favored natron salt to clean teeth. The empire's diversity shines through even in these small habits, a mosaic of traditions and innovations. Historians still argue whether the Romans truly understood the dangers of lead, or if their pride in appearance blinded them to subtle warnings. Some suggest that the allure of a perfect smile was worth the risk, a risk that would slowly manifest in headaches, fatigue, and worse. Others think that the health problems attributed to lead may have been caused by other environmental factors, making the story more complicated than it seems. As afternoon fades, you stroll by the markets, where vendors shout their wares and children dart between stalls. You catch a glimpse of a craftsman shaping ivory into delicate combs, probably for hair, but maybe for teeth too. You wonder if he knows about the invisible cost behind those radiant smiles. You feel the weight of history pressing gently on you, a reminder that beauty and health have always been intertwined in complicated ways. The past isn't just dusty facts, it's the breath of people who lived, laughed, and sometimes suffered for their desires. The sun dips low, and you head home, feeling the quiet pull of night and the slow promise of rest. Your teeth still shimmer faintly, a reminder of a world where brilliance was both blessing and burden. Evening settles softly over Rome, the sky painted in shades of purple and amber as you wander toward the Campus Martius, where the city's lights begin to flicker like distant stars. The air carries a mix of aromas, roasting chestnuts, spiced wine, and the faint tang of river water. You feel the day's weight pressing lightly on your shoulders, but your mind remains alert, tracing the hidden threads that connect lead teeth to Roman life. You remember a curious story from a fellow traveler, a Greek physician who once visited the city and was baffled by the Romans' strange dental habits. He wrote in his notes about a particular senator who insisted on lining his teeth with a lead-based paste, believing it would impress both gods and men. The Greek physician warned him about lead poisoning, but the senator just laughed and said, "Beauty is power, and power demands sacrifice." That phrase lingers with you, both haunting and oddly comforting. As you walk, you consider the role of dentists, or rather, their Roman counterparts, the Medici Dentarii. They were part craftsman, part healer, but their tools look more like instruments of war than of care. Bronze picks, forceps, and scalpels gleaming under the torchlight. You imagine sitting in one of their chairs, the scent of oil lamps mingling with the metallic tang of instruments. The thought alone makes your teeth ache, perhaps a psychosomatic effect of your own dental experiments. You overhear a conversation between two merchants discussing new arrivals from the East. They talk about exotic spices, silk fabrics, and strange beauty treatments, including one rumored to be a paste made from crushed pearls. You wonder if any Roman ladies will abandon their lead paste for something gentler, more luxurious, or if vanity will keep the old habits alive. The lead paste itself is a marvel of chemistry, or perhaps alchemy. It's made by corroding lead sheets in vinegar, then mixing the resulting white powder with oils and resins to create a smooth adhesive substance. You recall the apothecary's grumble about how many have tried safer alternatives, only to be overshadowed by the paste's blinding brilliance. It's a classic case of the harder-to-resist poison. Historians still debate whether the use of lead paste was widespread or mainly confined to the upper classes. Archaeological findings of skeletons with high lead levels suggest exposure beyond the elite, possibly through cookware, pipes, or cosmetics. This complicates the story. Maybe the glowing teeth were just the tip of the iceberg. You think about the irony, a substance meant to enhance appearance slowly poisoning the wearer, making them ill in ways no one could see until it was too late. It's like a metaphor for Rome itself, grandeur and decay intertwined in a delicate balance. Your footsteps echo softly on the stone as you make your way home, the city settling into a gentle hush. You brush your teeth one last time today, careful not to overdo the paste. You smile faintly at your reflection in a small polished bronze mirror, appreciating the glow, even as a tiny shiver of doubt brushes through you. The night is deepening, and as you prepare to rest, you wonder, how many other ancient secrets lie hidden behind the smiles of history? And how many of those secrets still shimmer just beneath the surface? Night deepens, and you find yourself drifting through quieter streets, the soft glow of oil lamps casting dancing shadows on ancient walls. Your footsteps slow as you think about the strange relationship Romans had with their bodies, a mixture of admiration, ritual, and practical concerns that seems so foreign to us today. The lead paste is just one small chapter in a much larger story about Roman self-care and the curious customs that shaped their daily lives. You recall how personal grooming in Rome was almost a public affair. Wealthy citizens would visit the balneum, the public baths, where beauty rituals mingled with socializing and business deals. Here, tooth care was part of a larger routine: hair plucking, skin treatments, and elaborate perfumes. The baths smelled faintly of sulfur and rosewater, a combination both soothing and strange. You can almost hear the low murmur of voices, the splash of water, the scraping of strigils on skin. Tooth care tools, like small metal picks and powders, were often kept in decorative boxes, sometimes made of bone or glass. You imagine a Roman matron gently polishing her teeth, humming a tune, while her children play nearby. These moments of calm contrast sharply with the more dangerous aspects of the lead paste, an invisible risk hidden beneath the bright smiles. You wonder how those who didn't have access to such luxuries managed. The common folk often used crushed shells or ashes from burned herbs as abrasives. Some even chewed on sticks from aromatic trees to freshen breath. There's something beautiful in the simplicity of these practices, a gentle rhythm connecting people across classes and regions. Historians still argue whether the lead paste contributed significantly to chronic illnesses among Romans, or if it was just one factor among many in a complex environment full of pollutants and stresses. Lead poisoning symptoms can be subtle and overlap with other diseases, making it hard to draw firm conclusions. Still, the high lead levels found in some Roman skeletal remains paint a worrying picture. You recall reading about how lead wasn't only used in dental care, but also in cooking pots, water pipes, and even wine containers. This widespread exposure makes you think of a city slowly intoxicating itself through convenience and tradition, much like the paste that lined their teeth. The contradictions fascinate you. Romans prided themselves on health and hygiene, yet embraced habits that compromised both. It's a gentle reminder that human nature hasn't changed much. We still chase beauty and status, sometimes at our own expense. Your thoughts float as you settle in, the past folding softly around you like a well-worn blanket. The lead-lined smiles of Rome remain, glimmering faintly in the twilight of history, whispering stories of allure and hidden cost. The city sleeps under a velvet sky speckled with stars, and you find yourself wandering through the quieter alleys where only the faint sound of distant voices and the rustle of leaves interrupt the stillness. In this calm, your mind drifts back to the curious social role of teeth in Roman culture, a subtle yet powerful marker of identity and status. That gleaming smile wasn't just about vanity. It was a statement, a silent language spoken in public forums and private banquets alike. You picture a senator or a wealthy merchant sitting at a lavish dinner, the flicker of candlelight catching the shine of his lead-lined teeth as he laughs softly. It's a kind of armor, a crafted image that demands respect and attention. Teeth were more than tools for eating. They were symbols, part of a carefully curated persona that signaled wealth, education, and power. There's an old story you remember, told by a Roman playwright, about a young man who tried to impress his beloved by whitening his teeth with lead paste, but ended up losing his voice to illness. The tale was told with a gentle humor, a cautionary whisper about the costs of superficial beauty. You smile at the thought. People haven't changed much, have they? You also think about how gender played into dental care. While men might have used lead for its brightness, women often relied on gentler, more natural pastes made from herbs and ashes, balancing appearance with care. You imagine a Roman woman in her chamber, surrounded by small bowls filled with powders and oils, carefully mixing her own remedies. The process is slow and soothing, almost meditative, a small ritual in a busy life. You recall the discovery of ancient dental tools in a villa excavation, a set of bronze instruments finely crafted and surprisingly similar to modern tools. It's a reminder that despite the quirks, Roman dentistry was advanced in many ways. They even performed early forms of tooth extraction and used herbal analgesics to ease pain. You might shudder at the thought of sitting in that chair, but there's respect to be had for their ingenuity. Historians still debate how widespread dental care really was among the lower classes. Some evidence suggests that slaves and commoners had little access to these treatments, relying instead on natural chewing sticks or simply enduring discomfort. This divide mirrors many other aspects of Roman life, a layered society where appearance often masked harsher realities. As you walk back toward your resting place, the cool night air brushes softly against your skin. The ancient city, with all its brilliance and flaws, feels alive around you, a living story unfolding quietly in the shadows. You close your eyes briefly, imagining the shimmer of lead-lined smiles caught in candlelight, a small, peculiar glow from a distant past. And with that image, you ease further into the night, the past and present merging in a soft lullaby of history. The early morning mist still lingers in the air as you rise and step outside, the cobbled streets cool beneath your feet. You find yourself drawn to the marketplace, where vendors begin setting up their stalls, and the gentle clatter of pottery and soft murmur of bargaining fills the air. It's here you see another side of Roman dental care, how everyday people approach their smiles, without the luxury of lead paste or finely crafted tools. You watch a butcher slice meat with practiced ease, a thin coating of soot marking his fingers. Nearby, a vendor offers a mixture of crushed herbs and sea salt, promising fresh breath and clean teeth for a modest coin. These mixtures seem humble compared to the shiny paste of the elite, but they carry a history just as rich, passed down through generations. You recall an odd custom. Some Romans believed that rubbing their teeth with crocodile dung powder helped prevent decay, a practice borrowed from Egyptian medicine. The thought makes you wrinkle your nose, imagining the gritty texture, but also marveling at how remedies traveled across cultures and borders. It's a reminder that healing and beauty were always intertwined with experimentation, trial and error. You overhear a conversation about a recent discovery, a cache of ancient recipes for oral care found in a dusty scroll. Among them, one includes a recipe combining charcoal, honey, and crushed shells, an early form of toothpaste. You picture someone carefully mixing these ingredients, hoping for a spark of freshness, not realizing they might also be scratching their enamel away. Such is the cost of innovation. You think about the rituals that surrounded these practices. Teeth cleaning wasn't merely functional. It was part of daily grooming, connected to ideas about health, purity, and social grace. The morning ablutions set the tone for the day, a quiet moment of self-care in a bustling city. Historians still argue whether these folk remedies had any real dental benefit, or if they were mostly symbolic acts of cleanliness and status. The lines between medicine and magic blur in these ancient times, where science and superstition lived side by side. As the sun climbs higher, warming the stones beneath your feet, you feel a comforting rhythm in these small routines. The ancient Romans, in all their grandeur and grit, shared a simple desire with you, to care for themselves, to shine a little brighter in a complicated world. The market's hum grows louder, and you move on, carrying the scents and stories of the city with you as the day unfolds. The afternoon sun softens, casting long shadows as you find yourself wandering toward a quiet garden tucked behind a grand villa. The scent of lavender and rosemary drifts on the warm breeze, mingling with the faint tang of crushed minerals used in Roman cosmetics. Here, amidst blooming flowers and neatly trimmed hedges, you imagine a Roman matron reclining, a small silver box in hand, containing her carefully prepared tooth powder. The tooth powder was an elaborate concoction, sometimes a blend of crushed bones, shells, and herbs. The goal was to maintain not only a white smile, but also fresh breath and strong gums. You picture the gentle grinding of powders between smooth stones, a soothing, repetitive task that connects the maker to the earth and the plants around her. You think of the elaborate rituals tied to personal care, the application of perfumes, oils, and cosmetics that included lead-based face powders, despite their risks. It's curious how lead appears repeatedly in Roman beauty, a toxic element embraced for its ability to transform appearances. The same element that brightened smiles also dulled skin and damaged health, a paradox wrapped in layers of tradition. You remember a quirky detail. Some Romans believed that if you gargled with a mixture of vinegar and honey, it would ward off bad breath and even evil spirits. Such beliefs illustrate how oral care intertwined with spirituality and superstition, a reminder that health was often seen as a balance of body and soul. The garden also invites contemplation on how dental care linked to diet. Fresh fruits, raw vegetables, and a variety of cheeses were common on Roman tables, their natural textures helping clean teeth in subtle ways. Yet, sweet honey and wine were also staples, introducing sugars that could accelerate decay, an ancient dental dilemma. Historians still debate whether the harmful effects of lead and sugar were widely understood in Roman times or simply accepted as part of life's price. The absence of modern dentistry left many to live with the consequences of their choices, often unaware. As evening draws near, you let your thoughts rest on the peaceful garden scene, the mingling scents, and the soft sounds of rustling leaves. The past feels close here, delicate and alive, a gentle story folding itself around you like a whispered lullaby. Twilight descends softly as you stroll through the narrow Roman streets once more, the sounds of daily life fading into a quiet hush. Your mind returns to the intriguing intersection of medicine and dentistry, where Roman doctors and dentists, often the same person, worked to alleviate pain and improve health with the tools they had. You picture a small clinic tucked away in a crowded neighborhood, where a skilled practitioner wields bronze instruments with practiced hands. Early forms of anesthesia, such as opium and mandrake root, might dull the pain as teeth were extracted or abscesses treated. The scent of herbs fills the air, mixing with the faint metallic tang of tools and the occasional groan of discomfort. Yet, even with these advances, Roman dental care was limited by the era's knowledge. Pain relief was rudimentary, and infections often went untreated, leading to chronic conditions. Still, there was a genuine effort to understand oral health, with some texts offering advice on brushing techniques, diet, and remedies to strengthen gums. You recall a fascinating story about a Roman dentist who inscribed a message on a patient's tooth, a form of ancient dental graffiti. It's a playful reminder that even in the serious business of health, humor found a place. There's also evidence of dental prosthetics made from gold wire and animal teeth, showcasing Roman craftsmanship and the desire to restore not just function, but also appearance. You imagine the pride someone might feel wearing such a piece, the subtle glint of gold as they smile in the mirror. Historians still debate how widespread these practices were outside wealthy circles. The cost and skill required meant that many relied on simpler remedies or endured discomfort in silence. As the stars begin to twinkle overhead, you feel a connection to those ancient hands and tools, a thread linking past and present in a shared human desire to care for oneself. The night deepens, wrapping you in its gentle embrace, and the ancient city whispers softly once more. The moonlight drapes itself across the tiled rooftops of Rome, casting silver patterns on worn stone streets as you take one last quiet walk through the sleeping city. Somewhere, a fountain trickles gently, and an olive branch sways in the warm night breeze. Your thoughts drift to the Roman obsession with appearance, not only in clothing or architecture, but in their smiles. And here we come full circle, back to the curious question: why, of all things, would the Romans line their teeth with lead? It wasn't just about health, or even beauty. It was about control, influence, status. In a world where social standing could hinge on how clean your toga was or how fragrant your breath, teeth were another canvas. A sparkling smile, however chemically enhanced, spoke volumes. It said you were refined, wealthy, and Roman enough to afford the dangers others could not. You recall that high lead paste was often marketed with lofty claims. It could preserve the teeth, lighten stains, and fortify the gums. These promises mirrored those on modern toothpaste tubes, though without regulation or warning labels. The irony is sharp, but somehow soothing. Humans have always been willing to risk a little harm for the illusion of perfection. One fringe theory suggests that lead-lined smiles were even seen as fashionable among certain elites, an ancient equivalent to today's cosmetic trends. Whether that's true or just a historian's hopeful hunch is still debated. But it makes you picture a nobleman flashing a dazzling silvery grin at a banquet, unaware that each smile brought him a little closer to decay. As lead quietly infiltrated the bloodstream, symptoms might have crept in: fatigue, trembling hands, mood swings. These weren't always recognized as side effects, chalked up instead to spirits, bad omens, or simply aging. So the cycle continued, shining on the outside, crumbling within. Historians still argue whether these Roman dental customs were widely practiced or limited to eccentric pockets of society. But what's clear is this: the desire to fix, perfect, and display one's teeth has ancient roots, sometimes quite literally toxic ones. You sit quietly now, back where you started, near the ancient forum. The city is hushed. Statues cast long shadows in the moonlight. A dog barks faintly in the distance, and you let your breath slow, your thoughts settling. And as your eyelids grow heavier, you carry one final image with you. A mirror polished with ash, a hand gently applying shimmering powder to a waiting smile, and the quiet hope that maybe, just maybe, beauty could outshine the danger. The streets of Rome now lie still, the hum of distant conversation replaced by the quiet whisper of wind through old fig trees. Lamps flicker low in their brackets, casting sleepy golden halos on stone walls worn smooth with time. You feel your breath deepen, your body warm and heavy under the hush of ancient calm. You've wandered through villas and gardens, listened in on forgotten rituals and peculiar remedies. The scent of olive oil and herbs still lingers, as does the sound of footsteps on marble floors and the rustle of linen robes. You've walked beside emperors and paupers, healers and housewives, each brushing their teeth, or trying to, in ways both familiar and strange. The world feels slower here, softer, as if the centuries have padded the edges of memory, rounding sharpness into lullabies. Lead-lined teeth, bizarre powders, curious potions. They were all part of a rhythm that feels oddly comforting now. People trying their best with what they knew, much like you. So you settle in deeper, the past a quiet hum in the background. There's nothing to solve, no lesson to absorb, just the soft awareness that you're resting now, safe and still, as Rome fades gently to silence.